Here, what would you do if you had an NIL deal today? Who would you go after?
Who would I go after?
In town, what companies would you get?
Prime quarter. You mean in Madison?
In Madison, fuck. I do every fucking food company in Madison if we had NIL deals.
I do ask them there because I think it's amazing.
Okay. All right, let's get going with the episode. Welcome to 217 South Mills.
Brought to you by Cabin Coffee Altoona, located at 2922 Meadowlark Lane, Altoona, Wisconsin. Stop on by. Hey, Bill, what do you have today?
I got, same as always, my cold pressed sugar-free turtle with a splash of half and half.
Absolutely, it seems to be your go-to. I have my basically sugar-free caramel, sugar-free chocolate, sugar-free vanilla, and it's breve, iced breve. Again, got the high fat content, low on sugar, and fits into all your parameters for your keto diet, Bill.
I hear you.
What are we doing today?
We're talking about 217 South Mills, name of the show. We already told the audience we named it because the apartment we lived in, the greenhouse, they saw the picture. We're going to throw another picture on the screen to remind them where we live. What should we start off with? The roommates.
Yeah, let's stay with roommates. And this is kind of the basis of, like, I don't know, not our friendship, obviously, but this was a huge factor. This is where we living together.
Where things got deep.
What we experienced.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I think I started off there the first year. It was myself, it was Dave Costa, Chris Pickett, and Chris Janik, otherwise known as Tank, that we mentioned in an earlier episode. So it was the four of us, and then when Tank graduated, you filled Tank's spot and came into his bedroom. And then that's when the real fun started, I think, at 217. Yeah, you want to shoot it off first? Or you want me to?
So, I mean, kind of like, I want to say it was a typical, like, college living arrangement, but the more you talk about it and the more you tell people about it, I think ours was a little more special than most people's. I mean, we had some interesting people and characters that would stop by frequently and just stop by, and we had gatherings, and it was kind of a popular place to hang out.
It is, and it's some of those stories that people think are unbelievable, but they actually been with 217 South Mills, is the grilling.
Yeah.
We grilled chicken all the time.
Yep.
We had the famous recipe we came up with, Jack Daniels BBQ sauce and the ranch dressing.
Yep.
And I want to jump right into it. The thing where I realized after the fact it was so famous, you got packages from your mom delivered. My mom probably once a month would send underwear and deodorant to me in college. Like, I couldn't go out and buy my own. But when the UPS guy came to the house, I knew we were special. When the UPS guy was stopping to eat grilled chicken with us and even having a beer. I hope he doesn't work for UPS anymore because he's probably going to get in trouble. But he would have a beer with us and have grilled chicken. That's when I knew our spot was
I hope he's the freaking president and he remembers that. Stopping by.
Maybe we'll get an NIL deal with him.
Yeah, maybe.
NILs are popular.
That'd be great. I agree. But yeah, I mean, think about it. You maybe always had packages stop by from my mom, your mom, like you said, people, and then to have the UPS guy that makes a trip around the backyard while we're out there grilling and having a beer or two, and stops by and on his road would have chicken with us. That's pretty cool.
It's great.
It is cool.
But some of the things we came up with was horseshoes.
Yeah. So we found horseshoes at the house. Random horseshoes. And I'm not sure if they were in the attic or where they were, but we did come across some horseshoes. And at that point in time, it was a great idea. We should definitely get a horseshoe pit. And we had a backyard. Didn't have sand. And did we have the pipes, or where did the pipes come from?
I think we either found rebar or we salvaged rebar somewhere. But yeah, we went and bought playground sand.
Yeah, so we went to the hardware store. We all drove there on our scooters, on our mopeds. We each put 2 bags of sand in between our legs and drove back to our house and constructed our own horseshoe pit.
Yeah.
And of course, we had to have tiki torches because that helped illuminate the horseshoe activities in the evening hours, we could say.
I hear you. Another memory that when I think about 217 South Mills, I remember, and our landlord's going to come up a couple times in this episode, Dan. Forget Dan's last name, but Dan, the landlord. I remember calling him. We had a game on the road, and I forget who we were playing, but we were on the road. We called and said the upstairs toilet's not working. We fly out of town, go to the game, get back in town late. It had to be after midnight. We got back to the place. I went in the upstairs bathroom, and I had been living there. This is my second year living there, so I was so comfortable walking in, taking a leak. And I walked in, didn't turn the light on, and I sensed something was off.
Right.
And I turned the light on. Dan took the fucking toilet out of the house, and there was a hole in the floor. And we're just like, damn, like you can't just take a toilet and not replace it with a toilet.
And let us know because
I think I had to piss in the tub that night. Like it's just like, you can't do that as a landlord. But I think we have one other funny Dan story.
Yeah. The day Dan moved in. It's kind of a funny story.
That was after you were injured, so you were already home.
Yep.
You witnessed it firsthand.
Yep.
Me, that was another game I came back from, another road game, got back late, and I remember, I think I went right to your room, and I'm like, who the hell is sleeping on the couch?
Yeah.
Like, is that a bum? Because with parties, we did have the occasional bum come in the house,
yep.
which we were fine with, just don't cause trouble, you can have a beer or two, but I'm like, did Joe let the bum stay on the couch? And he's like, no, that's Dan. I'm like, Dan who? And he's like, Dan the landlord. We're like, what's he doing staying here? Dan got divorced.
Dan's going through a divorce. And he moved in. He's like, how long is he here for? I'm like, he didn't say. He said he owned the place and he was moving in.
So I think it was the next day or two, we sat him down and had a meeting. Like, and I think we allowed him to stay there for a week.
Yeah.
And he knocked some money off the rent. Right. And so that I thought was absolutely crazy.
I don't know if Dan still owns 217 South Mills. If you do, Dan, like, hey, let us know.
I think we're going to have to do some digging and look him up on Onyx.
Yeah,
see where that tax bill's going. But another surprise guest at 217. Who was that buddy that we had that me and you became friends with, listening to music after the bars and having a couple late night cocktails with? This random person after parties is sitting on their couch, and we start shooting the shit with them. We're having a good time with them, and all of a sudden, and
we saw him quite a bit.
He was at our house quite a bit.
He became a regular fixture at Gatherings.
Yes.
And even when there wasn't a party, he was
hanging out, having drinks.
And I think it was like a night where we actually said, like, so, like, who are you? And it was like way after the time that we should have probably done.
We already knew his name. We were calling him Dany.
Yep.
He introduced himself to us as Dany.
Yep.
And we're like, hey, it's Dany again.
Yep.
Dany, you want to drink again? You know, whatever. And we knew who he was. We knew who he was as Dany.
Right.
But we're like, all right, Dany, we know you, but we don't know you. Are you an athlete?
Yep.
Because obviously we hung around with a lot of athletes. Not that we didn't hang around with other people, but we just assumed he was an athlete. So we asked him, and he's not a football player because we knew everybody on the team.
And he wasn't a wrestler because he knew the majority of those.
Exactly. So you're thinking maybe it's like a bench player from basketball. Right. Maybe it's like one of those random sports that we didn't see like in our daily college life. Yeah. Crew. Well, crew's a club, but still crew. And he goes, yeah, I'm an athlete. And we're like, what sport do you play? He goes, hockey. And we're like, I think my response is, are you any good at it?
Are you any good?
Yeah, are you any good at it? Are you a good athlete? He goes, I'm all right. And it's late at night, and the light bulb goes off in my head, and I'm like, wait a second, hockey players get drafted out of high school. I'm like, or get drafted early before they're done with college. And I asked, did you get drafted? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, oh shit, we're sitting with somebody who got drafted. Like, did you get drafted pretty good? Yeah, decent. Where'd you get drafted? He goes, second overall. We're like, second overall in the NHL draft? He goes, yeah. We're like, what's your last name? Dany Heatley. Dany Heatley's hanging out at her house, having drinks, eating the grilled chicken in the backyard, playing horseshoes. When we come up to the next story that I'm assuming you're going to tell about the backyard campfire, Danny's there with that. Dany was at everything that whole time. And, I look back at it, and I got to talk to Dany a little bit afterwards at some different events I was at. And I really think a lot of it was we weren't those, like a fanboy, like going after him, drilling him with all these questions. And he didn't bug us either. Right. And that's why we liked him. Right. And it was just a mutual agreement on both sides. And we all got along. But it was mind-blowing when we realized this is the second pick overall in the NHL draft. The dude went on to play, 10 plus years in the NHL. It's a great, tremendous hockey player in the NHL. Yeah, he had a couple issues, a couple accidents, a couple off the ice issues. Right. But overall, a very, very good hockey player in the NHL that we just got along with. We just gelled together. Hockey player and old lineman and got along. Yep.
And I think it just speaks volume that he was able to come to our house and relax because there was no pressure. That was the kind of atmosphere that we had. Yeah. And we didn't care what he did and he did. But it was kind of weird. You thought maybe, with that big of a contract he signed, then maybe you could flip the bill for, some grilled chicken or a couple of beers. It was still kind of cool to hang out with them.
And we did have a good, for buying the booze and the alcohol, we did have a nice little hookup from one of our previous jobs. Yep. Shout out to Party Port Liquor. We used to work there. We also used to get a great discount at Party Port Liquor. But so Dany was coming around, and it was just cool that happened. But I often wonder the first night, how did he walk in? Was he wandering around? Was he on his way home? Did he have a bad dinner with a date and he was walking home and just goes, that house looks interesting? And because when you think back when the first time was, I can't remember. I just remember he was on the couch.
Yep.
And it was like Friday, Saturday nights, Dany was on the couch with us shooting the shit. And it was only he was never there during the day. Never saw Dany during the daylight. It was usually every Friday, Saturday night after midnight. And between the hours like midnight and 4 a.m. is when we hung out. And we told life stories, we told ups and downs and this and that. And the guy goes on to do tremendous things in the NHL.
Yeah, it's like just one of those cool experiences.
Yeah.
Seems like a normal day at 217 South.
So what's another thing, in case there's any Dany Heatley fans out there, tell them about the campfire.
Yeah, so I was interning with the Madison Police Department trying to be a cop. So I had an internship that I was doing there, and I was a member of the traffic enforcement safety team, which is a test team, which is, well, speedways. They call them speedways. It was speed enforcement. Put the wave on the end to make it sound more politically correct. With speed traps, and I did that. So and I really enjoyed it. A couple of times though, I had to work on weekends, to do some of the things. And I believe it was a weekend, and I think we were done playing horseshoes. We were done with the grilling, and we kind of said, like, I wish we had a bonfire. We should get a fire pit at some point in time. And it was me, you, and of course Dany. And so we're sitting around back, and I think I walked inside, or you walked inside, and we had that big 3-cell mag light, the old school ones. And what do? We screw the top off, put down as the base, put the flashlight on there, put on, and what do? And
set the chairs up in the circle around
out there until the wee morning.
Oh yeah.
To the point where I have an option to either go to sleep and get some sleep, or just go right over to the police department where I'm going to be under the weather trying to do traffic enforcement. And I remember it clear as bell too, because I walked in there and I knew the guys, on the test team, and I got along well with them. And I walked in there and I said hi to one of the guys. Like, whoa! I'm like, buddy's like, I think you need some gum, son. Thanks. Like, you all right? I'm like, I'm struggling. He took me in his squad car. I got to do this rally with him, and he had pity for me. He laughed at me the entire time, but he's like, "Yeah, you football players, yeah, I see, but I showed up work on time."
Yeah, you did. Well, hey, speaking about you had mentioned the other day about 217 South Mills is where you made the decision that you wanted to go to law enforcement.
Absolutely. So after football was done, I kind of lost a little bit of my place.
Yep.
You lost your purpose. I was still kind of friends with you guys. Obviously, we're roommates. But again, I wasn't doing a part team. I had so much time on my friggin' hands that I didn't know what to do with myself. I went from being an athlete, all my entire days are like regimented, boom, 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 be here, be here. And now all of a sudden I'm just a regular student, and I had so much friggin' time on my hands. Probably didn't make the best choices in that time, but I was just kind of floundering, trying to find my way, basically, to figure out what I want to do with myself. And again, my traditional plan was, hey, I have all this awesome information. I'll be a football player. I'm going to do the traditional thing where I go to school to be a teacher. I'm going to be a gym teacher. I'm going to coach football until the day I die. Like, that was kind of the game plan, right? Well, things happened, Bill, and they were turning down students with a 3.8 GPA to the School of Education in Madison, and my 2.675 was not going to cut it. So, that was one of the deciding factors. And I wasn't hell bent on being a gym teacher. I really wasn't. It just seemed like the natural progression, and it gave me a path. So I'm kind of floundered and not really kind of feeling sorry for myself, lost what I was working for. And, obviously football was a big part of my life. So I remember like it was yesterday. It was after bar time. We stumbled our way home and we're all drunk. And I think it was you, Dave. I don't remember if he was there. Maybe Danny was there. I don't know.
He was probably on the couch.
He's probably there.
Yeah.
And we're kind of all just kind of like passing out and dozing off. And I turned the TV on. And the TV show Cops came on. And I'm sitting there watching the show and Cops, and I'm like, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh man, this really fills a lot of voids in my life that I'm missing right now. I'm missing the camaraderie. I'm missing the adrenaline. I'm missing just the pressure. And adrenaline's a freaking drug. And people don't understand that. It really is. And I'm watching the show, and I don't remember what the episode was, but I'm sitting there going, holy crap, this fills so many freaking voids in my life. It was that Monday I went and changed my major and there wasn't law enforcement or criminal justice in Madison at the time. So I'm like, well, what is the closest thing to it? He's like, well, sociology. I said, okay, well, sign me up. He's like, that's a really hard major. I'm like, okay. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
He's like, you should stick to what you're doing. I said, I'm going to be a cop. Like, that was it. And so we hemmed and hawed, and he tried to talk me out of it. And then finally he says, why are you going to school here when you can go to the tech college down the road? He's like, there's a national police shortage right now. You can go hop on there and be a cop like in a year. I'm like, well, I got this scholarship.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep on going. It's like,
He's
he's like, I don't know anybody that goes to Madison in order to be a cop. I said, well, then I'm going to be here first. Went into the sociology major, got my degree, and then after that, boom.
But before you got that degree, I do remember Dave and I helping you with some of your police skills.
Yes.
So, as you remember, we came home one day, I think, from a workout or something, and it was summertime. Beautiful summer day. And that's back when we used to have the summer bill. I had my song for each summer. One was Big Pimpin', obviously. That was a big song for, I think that was 98. When we came home, and you were trying to watch license plates go by.
Because part of my job was to do the police phonetic alphabet. You know, as a cop or as the cars go by, I would record make, model, color, license plate, estimated speed, actual speed, feet that it was registered with. So that was my job. I was basically a scribe. And, I'm trying to, be a cop and be the best that I can be. So, I was outside doing the, Adam Boy Charles, reading out license plate.
Just sitting there, like in a chair. So Dave and I had the genius idea. We said, well, let's make it a little bit more complicated because football's not easy. Let's make the workout for being a cop a little bit more difficult. So we went in, got a couple bottles of Captain, a little Coke, got a table, some more chairs, came out there and just basically said, okay, if you screw the license plate up, you got to drink. Drink, I think, 2 drinks. But if you get it right, you got to drink the celebratory drink. So you're drinking either way. You're getting drunk. And you're still nailing the license plates. Now, what I think is funny, and I'm going to keep his name out of it because I don't want to get him in trouble, is while we're doing this, a younger, and the only thing I'll give is a defensive player, which I think he's going to know who it is, came walking up the street, recognized us, asked to hang out, wanted a couple drinks, and we started running a little low. So I was the one I said, why don't you go down to Regent Street Liquor, grab another bottle, come up here, and you can hang with us. And he's like, well, I'm not 21. And I'm like, just tell him Bill said it's okay. Walks down, gets a bottle of Captain, comes back to the house. We won't say his name, but he defense and he may be in education right now. Yeah. But he had a great time with us. He was another great Badger teammate of ours. But yeah, just another story of other guys hanging out at 217 and just some of the stuff we did there. Just absolutely crazy. One thing I just looked down at my notes that we overlooked, we forgot a roommate. So we had Dave, Chris, we had Janet and you and me, Pickett's younger brother, Ryan. So we only had 4 bedrooms, but we did have a coat closet. And Ryan graduated high school, and he thought he was like an adult, and he wanted to be free and on his own. So he came to live in Madison. Chris asked if he could move in. We're like, yeah, sure, as long as he pays. So we put him in the coat closet. He got a single mattress. Basically kept his luggage on the mattress where he slept in the closet because we didn't use the closet for anything. And I think we cut him in for like half of what we were paying on rent, which probably knocked $100 off our rent, but it was good enough.
He was there for quite a while.
I think he was there almost the rest of the year. Yeah. When he came, I don't know what time of the year he got there. He was there during football season because I remember another game we were on the road, came home. We got a win, but I remember I was tired as hell and got in the house. And I just remember him running his mouth about how he could have played Division I football. And I was like, all right, let's go out front. And I was like, I'll give you one thing. You can get by me. Give him a huge, 5 yards both sides. Just picked him up and threw him in the bushes. No, you can't play Division I. Back in the house.
Such a small little kid. So much.
Oh, but his heart, his attitude, his mouth, everything was huge. Everything was huge there. Yeah.
I feel like we had a couple of visitors that were living in our porch at one point.
So, Lyman, I think you said in the last episode with riding the scooter, we're not going to exert energy that we don't have to because when it comes to football, we have to exert every ounce of energy. Right? So, yes, when the garbage was full in the kitchen, we took it from our kitchen, walked about 20 feet, and put it inside our patio. And that's where the garbage lived until somebody remembered what day garbage day was and was willing to take it from the patio down to the street. Right. There'd be times, and we rarely had parties. I mean, we maybe had 2 parties a year during football season. Right. maybe 1 or 2 during the summer. It wasn't like we were a party house by any means.
Right.
But on average, we'd have 20 to 30 bags of garbage inside that patio. And yes, we had a family, I'd say minimum a family of raccoons living in our patio. Which was crazy. You had to be careful going in and out of the house. We didn't want to let a raccoon in the house. It's that time of the show again where we'd like to thank our sponsor, Cabin Coffee Altoona. Cabin Coffee Altoona is located at 2922 Meadowlark Lane, located just off the Highway 53 River Prairie exit. Stop in and try my favorite drink, the cold press, with sugar-free turtle flavoring and a splash of half and half. It's a drink that you'll love the flavor without the sugar that all other drinks come with. So come in today, order a cold press sugar-free turtle. Heck, by now you could probably go in and call it Bill's drink. See you at Cabin Coffee Altoona. Everything's always better at the cabin. Because what other animals do we have living in the house?
We had an invasive species, and it was a bat. And I have, to this day, why I'm still terrified of bats, though. And I mentioned this before in the Casper show, but I'm going to say it again because it had that much of an impact on my life. So I think I was moving in late one night, and I was thinking in the room that tank is vacated. And they're like, hey man, don't move your stuff upstairs. I'll help you tomorrow, but I'm taking it off so you can sleep in my room. I'm like, oh, cool, whatever. No big deal. I'm like, appreciate that. Again, there's no air conditioning, so you have the fan on, and you have the TV on. Fall asleep, turn the TV off, turn off the lamp. Kind of that full moon effect going on. Got the blinds pulled a little bit, not all the way. Nuzzling in there, ready to fall asleep, and you get that feeling that you're not alone. Something's in your room.
And we did have, and just to cut you off, and I know I cut you off a lot, but we did have random people also. So we had neighbors coming in our house in the middle of the night. So when you say you felt like you weren't alone, you didn't know, like, was it the dude next door? Was it the girls across the street? But because random people just walked in and out of our house whenever they pleased. We had never locked our doors. We were comfortable with everybody. They were comfortable with us. So at that moment, you're like, is it the neighbors? Is it the neighbor across the street? But you had to sense something was there.
Something was there. I kind of opened my eyes and looked to see if someone's in my room. And it was something. And I remember going, wow, it's a really big moth. And I wasn't scared of the moth. You understand, it's hot. So I'm not wearing a shirt. I'm not wearing anything but a pair of mesh shorts, no drawers, nothing. It's a pair of Wisconsin mesh shorts.
That's the way we rolled.
Because it was freaking hot, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm laying in bed, and I saw the moth. And I'm like, it's a moth. I'm not worried about that. No big deal. And I start to fall asleep. And then I feel this slap on my thigh. And something's crawling up the inside of my shorts.
It's not the next door neighbor.
It's not the next door neighbor. It's nobody that I know. And so I reach over and I turn on the lamp and I start looking at and now this thing has fallen out of my shorts and it's sitting on the bed next to me and it's hissing at me and it's bouncing around and it's starting to like scare the crap out of me, quite honestly. It drops off the bed, it catches air, and it starts circling the room. And it has me pinned against the wall, the mattress, holding a pillow over my head and screaming like a girl, like I'm being murdered, apparently. And then at that point in time, I think Dave heard me. Dave runs up the steps. He sees what's going on, asks me what's going on, sees a bat. Dave ends up on the bed next to me with a pillow. I think Chris Pickett also came in because he thought I was being assaulted. And I was by the bat. And I think of all people, the closet dweller, Ryan, steps out of the closet. He walks in there, he sees 300-pound men holding pillows and screaming because his bat is just dive-bombing us. And at that point in time, he looks at us in such disgust and shakes his head. He grabbed like a broom or something nearby and hit it and killed it and then picked it up. And as he walks out the room, he goes, it just doesn't say a word, just walks away.
But I think the crazy thing to follow up on that is at that moment when and everyone's going to realize, the first bat was killed, we thought it was done. We thought it was a bat.
Yep.
That bat killed.
Yep.
Bats over.
Nope.
No more bats.
Nope.
But they lived there. They were breeding there. I remember one night calling up, I think we reached out to John Sigmund, Mark and Ellie. I remember these guys showing up. I think they had oven mitts and I think one of them had a baseball bat. One of them had like a racquetball racket ready to attack the bats. And me and you were discussing this the other day when we were talking about this episode. I go, the crazy thing about that scenario, if it was today, you've been around my neck of the woods, you've stayed at my house, I've stayed at your house in your neck of the woods. If I went to your house and I saw a bat and we got something to kill it, and the bat disappeared, I'd be like, Joe, thanks for having me over. I'm going to go stay at the Marriott.
Absolutely.
And I think you would do the same thing. Back then, if you saw that, which we saw multiple times, when we were talking about crawling along the ceiling in the kitchen, you'd see it. You'd go in the closet, the bat would fly. If you couldn't find it or catch it or kill it, you just ended up going to bed.
Absolutely.
And just be like, wow, there's nothing I can do.
Or coming home after bar time at 2, 3 in the morning, and you have those drunken munchies, and you're like, oh, I wonder what's in the refrigerator, was there leftover, whatever. And you walk in there, and there's 3 or 4 bats that are crawling across the curtain.
Yes.
And you're just kind of like,
yeah, I'll deal with it tomorrow. I'm gonna go to bed.
I'm not doing it. Just close the door.
They're on the first floor. We're on the second floor. They're not gonna find it.
So here's my shout out, because I'm still scared of bats to this day.
Oh, same here.
So I was in law enforcement at the time, and his name was Mark, and he was. We were in the rec center, and we had an open door that he found, so we had to clear the building. And it was an old building, and it's me and him. He's okay. Well, I say he's shorter, but he's probably normal size. To me, everybody's kind of short, but I mean, just a normal sized guy. And he's also a SWAT operator with me, so. We were clearing this building and doing a good job, and all of a sudden he sinks down and he looks back at me, and I'm like, you know, get the game face, okay, you know, and then all of a sudden that's when I saw that thing rodent buzz my head.
And you have a taser on one side and a gun on the other, correct?
I have a gun out because I'm clearing the building.
Okay, so guns out.
I'm out.
Yeah,
and he knows that I'm terrified of bats. I am army crawling. If I could have filed my damn buttons down on my uniform to get lower to the ground, I left Mark. I left his ass in the building. Now, we didn't secure all the way.
So the nobody left behind was not a guy. When there's bats, that
doesn't matter. Yeah. I crawled my ass up the stairs. I crawled out, and he's laughing so damn hard, so I knew he was fine. He's laughing. You hear him laughing. And then we get outside, and to this day, I still get my balls busted and my Mark, and I get pictures of bats, and it's just a great thing, but yeah, still hate bats.
Well, I'm going to try and do a shout out for 217 South Mills, and I pray that I get this name right. So I'm going to ask you a question, and we didn't talk about the question I'm going to ask you, but I know you know the answer. Who are when it comes to a sport, who are the craziest individuals that are participants in a sport in college? What sport would you say are the craziest people in college?
Wrestlers.
So, as we talked about Christianity the other day, and I sort of forgot about this story until I was actually looking on social media, and I saw on Chris's post the person that I truly believe the story is about. So if it's not you, I apologize. It might be somebody else, but I really think it is him. So our heavyweight wrestler at the University of Wisconsin was Jason Purnett.
Yep.
And Jason is still good friends, obviously, because I saw him on Facebook with Tank. But he was good friends back then with Tank. But Tank was also friends with the whole wrestling team because Tank was a big-time wrestler in high school. And the way I remember, I know the story is accurate. I'm 99.5% sure it was Jason. We were in the kitchen. It was after a game that we had. We were having like a small party, mostly just athletes at the house. Everybody had a couple drinks. And Jason said something like, did you ever wrestle? And I'm like, no, I did a couple wrestling games, but never wrestled. And we just started like each other, like just sort of feeling each other out a little bit. I'm like, let's go. Let's do it. Like, I'm not trying to fight you or nothing. Right. And he knew that. And I'm like, I'm still playing, so I don't want you to break any bones, but let's have a go at it. Like, let's just keep it in the kitchen. Yep. We started wrestling. Next thing you know, we're all live, we have 2 fridges in our kitchen. One of the fridges gets knocked over, and we broke the kitchen table. Yep. Needless to say, it wasn't by me throwing Jason around. It was by the heavyweight wrestler throwing me into the fridge and then onto the table. And then I think it was before I knew what a tap out was, but I was like, I was probably yelling uncle back then. Like, I get it. So it's done. It's done. So,
he was upset.
Yeah.
He was a beast. And those wrestlers, they have a different motor, man. They got a different mindset. They got all the angles down, and they know how to make you bend when you should.
Yeah. And then when you think about like fights, like going back to Wisconsin, I don't recall a ton of fights in bars. And a lot of the bars we went to as college athletes, there were a bunch of different athletes in the bar. And we all knew each other. We all basically got along. But And not saying football players never got in a fight, not saying other people didn't get in a fight, but if there was going to be a fight and wrestlers were involved, you want to be on the side of the wrestlers. You don't want to be against the wrestlers in the fight, and I'll say that all day long. The last 2 things I got, I'm going to tell you, I want to tell, just to give you a heads up, I want to tell my favorite memory of 217 South Mills, then I want to say my thoughts on where my scooter may possibly be. So my favorite thought, and people ask me this a lot, just after, like, not that I played forever, but the amount of football I did play, they're like, what are some of your fondest memories? I'm like, of course, the Rose Bowls, of course, beating Penn State, my home state team, the school that said I wasn't good enough. But I have this memory from 217 South Mills. We'll probably have an episode down the road about Ohio State, because in 99 when we played Ohio State, that was a huge game, huge upset. But just to give the audience a quick brief, we go to Ohio State, go to the shoe. Probably a little over 100,000 people in the horseshoe. And we go down 19-0 at half. We'll go into more detail on the show, but we get rained down at halftime. We come out the second half, and we just pound their ass. And the word you like to use a lot, we red ass the run. And for the audience, red ass the run is you're going to run the ball. We're going to tell you where it's coming. We don't care if you know it. We don't care how bad you want to stop it. We're going to do it, and we're going to win. And that's what we did that second half. And we ended up winning the game 42-19, as you know, obviously. But when I came home, Chris Pickett, our roommate, who came into the Badgers with us, but he ended up quitting football. He realized football wasn't for him, and he went into law school and ended up becoming a very successful lawyer. But I remember when I came in the house, and we all got along. We were still friends. Like, football wasn't his thing. He wanted to be a lawyer and just realized football wasn't going to work. He wanted to go a different direction, but we remained friends while we were roommates. And I remember walking in the house, and I was exhausted. That second half, Joe, like powers. You're pulling on the power. You're hitting linebacker head dead. We just went power right, power left, power left, power right, power left, power right, back and forth nonstop. Heads hurting, tired, sore, but a huge thrill after that victory. And I'm halfway up the steps, and Pickett's like, and I don't even think I was going out that night. I was that worn out. I was like, just going to go up, get changed, maybe come down, lay on the couch, watch ESPN or watch a movie, and that's it. Just enjoy the night. And Pickett goes, hey, you mind if I ask you a question? And I go, yeah, what's up? He goes, how does it feel to make 100,000 people shut the fuck up in that stadium?
Right.
And I go, fucking awesome.
Yep.
I go, that place was vibrating in the first half. And we had talked about, and I've talked to my buddies that we're planning like a high school buddy, trip to all meet up again. And a bunch of my high school buddies came to that Ohio State game. Number one, these crazy idiots got on the field before the game. They're standing on the white line in the end zone while we're doing warm-ups. And Hughes is like eyeballing me, like, who's that yelling your name? They just went up to a security guard in the stadium, and the security guard goes, do you know somebody down there? They're like, yeah, that's our high school buddy. The security guard lets him walk on the field with the horseshoe. Yeah. Jeff, Jason, Joe, and Chuck.
Yeah.
Lets him walk on the field. Then back to Pickett's question about how did it feel. The first half, that place was vibrating. The second half, about halfway through the fourth quarter, you could hear a pin drop. And what do I hear? I'm sitting on the bench, and like behind my right ear, I start hearing something I recognize. I turn around. These four dudes are singing my high school alma mater. And they're like 30 rows up. But I could hear them because everybody else is crying and just quiet. And I looked at Pickett, and I'm just like, I've never experienced anything like that before. And honestly, like, don't get me wrong. Rose Bowl's great. Kicking Penn State's ass to go to a Rose Bowl, great. But just when he asked that question, to be like, yeah, I had a part in shutting 100,000 people up in a half. That was phenomenal. And then last thing I got on my end, the scooter. So as I said in earlier episodes, my scooter was hot wired, and I bought it for like $100 off a senior that was graduating. And when I went to my first mini camp in Green Bay, and pretty much knew at that point I wasn't coming back to the apartment in Madison, I think I drove it around back and just put it on the kickstand and was like, I'm not, what am I going to sell to somebody for $50? Like, I'm not going to waste the time. So I just left it there. Fast forward, I forget how many years later. It was at least, I'd say, 3 to 5 years later. We were back in Madison for a game, and I took the family or whoever I was with over to 217 to see the house. And we're like, oh, let's walk around. And I think I walked around to see if the horseshoe pit was there. Right. And the horseshoe pit still was there because we drove a stake in the ground.
It was
exactly. But I see this pile of leaves, and I start kicking the leaves around. My scooter, years later, was laying on its side, still there. I actually debated getting it and taking it to wherever I was living at the time, just to be like, should I put some time into it, see if I could get it started again? Because it was hot wired. Like, and me and you now, we know how to clean cars and get gas out of flooded engines and all that.
Yeah.
But so it was still there. So that pretty much sums up my deal. But yeah, we had you know what? Here's another memory for you. I don't want to throw anybody in your neck of the woods under the bus, but do you remember when you invited us to Wausau / Cedar Creek for that, what was it, raffle,
it was a raffle.
a fundraiser?
Yeah.
Didn't we all get BB guns after a fundraiser? I remember Dave brought his BB gun back to 217, and at some point, Dave was like, we're in that stained glass, not stained glass, but that like block glass.
Yeah,
Dave would sit on the couch and just shoot that glass window with the BB gun. I'm just like, Dave, stop shooting the glass.
This is when Dan was not living with us at the time.
Sure, correct. Our landlord was not living with us while we were shooting BB guns inside the house. But yeah, just craziness. Tons of memories. But yeah, like you said, like that's where friendships are made, and that's where trust is earned on the field. When you could have those times off the field, and especially like you said, like when one guy knows the other guy's sore, helping each other out, getting nice, even just talking about plays. Like guys like me and you being a guard, Dave also being a guard, just reviewing that, like, hey, remember that play we put in? If it is against an over front, and the linebacker goes here, like, what are you looking at? What are you thinking? And be like, oh, you want to think? That's what I'm thinking. And making sure you're on the same page as the guy next to you, as the guy beside you, in front of you, behind you. Make sure everybody's thinking the same way. It was just huge, and I think that's when the relationship was, the foundation was built, and the relationship grew from there.
I agree 100%. I said just a lot of great memories from there, which is the reason why we did 217 South Mills.
Yeah.
Obviously, it impacted on both of our lives. Had a lot of fun there. I can relive those memories in my mind if I think about it hard enough. Like they just flood back. But just a really cool experience.
Well, I'm sure too with a lot of our teammates when they listen to this, they're going to also relive some of these memories.
Absolutely.
I got another memory for you really fast here because I know we're just about to wrap up. I did a shout out to Buck Sparacino about baseball, and he did comment on Facebook, and he complimented me on baseball. Now, all these guys came out again. Now I got to make sure I get the names right. Buck, who's Joe Sparacino, came out. His younger brother, Mike Sparacino, Jeff Major. I call him Majors, but he informed me like 3 years ago he doesn't have an S on the end of his name. I don't know why he didn't tell me when we were 9, but 3 years ago he's like, I don't have an S on the end. And Sean Cook all came out for I believe it was the Minnesota game, our senior year of college. And I got to tell this story because it was the craziest thing that happened. We take a group photo, and you know that big couch in front of the front window? We take a photo, and we're all sitting on the couch, all hanging out. And Buck, who's the crazy, like, outgoing personality, he was our class president, great guy, best friend, great guy, decides to lay on the back of the couch like he's posing and puts his hand like this. Well, after the picture, we all go back to hanging out, drinking, having a good time. About a half hour later, nobody could find him. Now, that night, all my buddies were riding everybody's scooter. They were all going around town, and I'm just like, listen, we're not going to the bars. We're hanging here. We're staying together. We're looking after one another, just having fun. We can't find Joe. We're looking. Like 2 hours go by. Where do we find him? Behind the couch. When the flash went off, I don't know what happened, but he fell behind the couch, decided to take a little nap for 2 hours. We found him later. I'm just grateful we found him. Otherwise, he still might be at 217 South.
See, if I remember correctly, that was where we deposited plastic bottles. So he
there was a plastic bottle cushion for him. Yeah, I think he woke up, and I think on the plane he was like, why is there like 750 bottles behind their couch? That was our recycling behind the couch.
We were recycling back then.
You're proactive.
Absolutely
proactive. Well, thanks again for joining us for another great episode, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, folks. Again, we want to thank our sponsor, 217 South Mills. Sorry, Coffee Help you at 2922 Meadowlark Lake. So you get me excited.
Too many numbers for an old life.
Come on, there's too many numbers there. So we'll see you next time, folks.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Joe and I today. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. If you like what you heard, please give 217 South Mills a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Go tell your friends about us. Like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube.
I'd like to thank Cabin Coffee Altoona for sponsoring us. Everything is always better at the cabin. See you next time. And remember, folks, Red has to run.
Stay tuned for some bonus material.
Joe, there's a Facebook comment asking you a question on how you feel about NYPD law enforcement cheerleader team.
The cheerleader team. I just feel like there's probably a lot more resources that we could use that sort of things for instead of a cheerleader team. I guess that's my opinion. I understand trying to boost the perception of law enforcement. I get that. We kind of got a bad rap for a while there, and I'm not saying that, again, I was a cop for over a decade. I can speak very freely about this. In any line of work, you're going to have bad eggs. However, I would rather have you not do it towards a dance team. I would rather have you put the money towards training, footwear, equipment to keep our guys safe.
And I agree with that, but here's my thing now. I'll jump in and say, I like dance videos that the police department's going through the department, but if we're doing a cheerleading team, I think you better be the bottom of the pyramid.
Why? I think with that acre of an ass you have.
Just stating. I'm not saying I'm going to be on top,
You're not going to be on top.
but I wasn't law enforcement. I'm just saying, all I'm saying is I don't think you should be the top of the pyramid. That's
All
it.
I'm saying, I probably would be the top here. I probably would be the base, the foundation.
The foundation, yes.
Absolutely.
Well, don't think offense. I just
I just say you call
It
me
is
fat here on TV here.
It's called you.
Oh, whoa.
We're not throwing the F. We said no F
It
words.
felt like you were
We're
going
not using the F word.
Wow. So, anything else on Facebook that I should have questions or response to?
That's it.
All right, folks. Again, if you have questions, let us know and email to us. We try to answer when we can. Have a good night. Thank you.
See you next time.